Alhamdulillah, countless gratitude to Allah, the Lord of all the creations, who has bestowed upon us this opportunity and ability to spend this time in His remembrance. Innumerable peace and blessings be upon our beloved Prophet Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa Ahmad Mujtaba Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, because of whom Allah's mercy is upon us. My dear and respected audience, Allah says in Quran, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Inna Allah yuhibbul lazina yuqatiluna Inna Allah yuhibbul lazina yuqatiluna fi sabilillahi ka'annahum bunyanun marsus. Sadaqallahu al-Azim. Allah says that verily Allah loves those who fight in His path like they are a wall made of molten lead, meaning that they do not take their step back. They fight steadfastly regardless of the consequences. Islam is centered around seeking Allah's pleasure. And there is no greater reward, there is no greater sacrifice than putting your own life in danger just for the sake of pleasing Allah or obeying His commandments. Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he said that the paradise is under the shadows of the swords. That if those who fight in the path of Allah, those are the ones who find the paradise. There is no greater reward in Islam than a person who lays his life in the path of Allah. The shaheed, Allah said that they are never dead. The martyrs, they are alive and Allah gives them rizq. Allah provides them with food. We just don't know it. We cannot comprehend their life. We just don't see them walking in front of us. But Allah says in Quran, then don't call them dead. They are not dead. They are alive, but you just do not realize. You just don't know that dimension. It is oblivious to you, but they are not dead. Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he said that on the day of judgment, nobody will want to come back to this earth and live this life again. No matter if you are going to be the paradise or going anywhere, even if you are a messenger or a prophet, you will not want to come back to this life. But the martyr, the shaheed, will ask Allah to send him back again so he can lay his life again in the path of Allah and re-enjoy all those joys and benefits that this act entails. Of course, putting your life in the line, knowing that you may not come back or you will not come back, it's not an easy thing. We spend all our life trying to do things to make this life easier for us, to make this life more enjoyable for us. Walking out of it, getting into the battlefield knowing that you may or you will not return, it's not an easy task. But Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he said, whoever never wished to die as a martyr is not a Muslim. It is one of the conditions of Islam that you wish to die as a martyr, that you wish to lay your life in the path of Allah. If you never wished that, then you are not a Muslim. You never felt the real meaning of Islam and belief. Because this life, it's a gift from Allah. It's given from Allah. And one day we have to leave it. And what better way to leave it, to give it back, than in the pleasure of Allah. That's why even Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he wished to die as a martyr. It is it's a condition of Islam. And when Allah says fight, Allah does not ask us to only fight when we are sure of success. Allah says it's in my hands to give success or failure. And the way Allah determines success or failure, it is completely different than what we humans mostly associate success and failure for. Remember, we can only see stuff happening right in front of us or maybe an hour from us. Our planning lasts that long. A month, an year, maybe 2 years, 10 years, pretty much. Allah, He sees all that has to come and He knows all that has to come. So in His calculations, even centuries don't matter. They are a blink of an eye. Remember the day near Allah, the day of judge. Allah says the day near Allah is 1,000 years that we have here. And then the day of judgment, it alone is 50,000 years long of our years, 50,000 of our years. So imagine the length of a century. It is nothing. So when Allah plans, to Him the lasting impact is in centuries. It's not instantaneous. Then in that world, it's still instantaneous. If it is happening for a century or after a century, it is still happening after a minute or a second or a fraction of it. But the rewards, what Allah offers as a reward is abadan abada. It's forever and ever and ever. And no amount can match forever, infinity. No matter how big of an amount you think, it is nothing as compared to infinity, because if something is infinite, it will eat up any amount, any duration, any time period that you can think of. So 2 days, 5 days, 10 days, 50 days, a year of trouble in the path of Allah is nothing as compared to the eternal blessing and eternal luxury and eternal comfort that Allah promises us in return. It is always a good trade-off. Even a lifetime of trouble and trial and sacrifice in the path of Allah is nothing in rewards in comparison to the reward that Allah has promised us. And also Allah has tied the higher statuses in paradise with the higher trials in this world. There is nobody in this world who will lead a life of luxury and comfort all along without going through any test, who will have a better reward in the hereafter as well. We may not know everybody's test, but everybody who Allah will grant a higher status near Him, Allah tests him or her first. That is Allah's way of determining, because Allah says in Quran, الَّذِي خَلَقَ الْمَوْتَ وَالْحَيَاةَ لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا وَهُوَ الْعَزِيزُ الْغَفُورُ. He created this circle of life and death so He can judge, He can find out, He can make it clear amongst us who are the ones who do good and who are the ones who do bad. And doing good is not then you are given everything and you do good, although that is also a test. When you are given all the luxuries, you are still being tested. That okay, how are you spending that money? How are you taking care of that luxury? How are you thanking Allah? Because Allah says that when we test somebody by stopping his money from him, stop making him poor, or throwing him through poverty, He says that Allah has cursed me, or Allah has made me amongst the cursed ones. And whenever we test somebody with bounties by giving him or her more money, more luxury, they say, oh, Allah has blessed me a lot. Whereas in both cases it is a test. The money that we get from Allah, we need to make sure we spend it right, because this is one of the things that we will be asked on the Day of Judgment. Allah will ask about certain things. Okay, I may give you youth. You were young. Where did you spend your youth? What were you doing during your youthful years? I gave you money. Where did you spend your money? I gave you knowledge. How did you spend your knowledge? So those are the things. They become liability. They are a blessing, but they are a liability as well. And we need to tell Allah, we need to be answerable for those. So don't just think that it's a blessing. It is a blessing, but it is a quest. It is a trial as well. Coming back to the point, the more people are blessed, more trials they had to go through. Allah did not make somebody a blessed one just because that person was born to a certain household. Imam Hassan alayhi salam and Imam Hussain alayhi salam, they were both born to Hazrat Bibi Fatima to Zahra radhiyallahu ta'ala anha. And Rasulullah sallallahu he said they are the leaders of the youth of Jannah. But they were not become that just because they were born to Rasulullah sallallahu household, that they were his children. They both had to go through a lot of trial and tribulation. They had to persevere through a lot to prove to the mankind that it was not something that was given to them just by birth. They paid for that stature by their blood. Hazrat Imam Hassan radhiyallahu ta'ala anhu, when Hazrat Ali radhiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he embraced Shahada, the Muslims, they agreed to him become his caliph, the next in Khalifa, the caliph. But Muawiyah, he rebelled against it, and the Muslim armies came in front of it. Hazrat Imam Hassan, just for the sake of Muslims, he left that kingdom, that throne, and he gave it to Muawiyah. And he had 7 or 8 clauses that were agreed upon between the parties. That okay, you will rule the Muslims, but these are the 8 or 7 conditions. The first condition was that Imam Hassan that he put it was, my father will not be cursed in public. And the last one was, upon the death of Muawiyah, the Khilafat will not be transmitted to his family. It will come back to the Muslims, and they will decide whoever will be the next Khalifa, next ruler for the Muslim world. And not a single one of those conditions were met or fulfilled. For 80 years, it was part of the Khutbatul Jummah, the sermon of Jummah. It was mandatory to curse Hazrat Ali radhiyallahu ta'ala anhu. For 80 years, Hazrat Umar bin Abdul Aziz radhiyallahu ta'ala anhu, when he became Khalifa, he stopped this practice. For 80 years before him, every Jummah, everywhere in the Muslim world, Hazrat Ali radhiyallahu ta'ala anhu used to be cursed. And Imam Hassan radhiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he used to come to pray the Jummah from Aisha radhiyallahu anha's hujra. He will come, he will sit by the door, and then Khatib will stand up on the mimbar, on the pulpit, and then he will say the Jummah, and he'll curse Hazrat Ali radhiyallahu ta'ala anhu in front of Imam Hassan. He will listen to it, do the salat there, and after salat first, he will go back to Aisha's hujra and do it. Imagine the pain that a person has to go through, that you are doing it, that every weekend, every Jummah, your father is being cursed not only in front of you, but in front of whole mankind, everybody in presence. Take how much courage and patience and sabr does it take to go through that? Imam Hassan radhiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he was going in the market in Medina, and a person, he came from Syria for Damascus. He asked people, where is Hassan? Because Damascus, it was the seat of the Umayyads, and they were painted as the infidels or the cursed people, the Ahle Bayt. So he asked people, where is Hassan? Who is Hassan? Somebody told him that is Hassan. Imam Hassan, he was coming with his slave. The person, he walked up to him and he started cursing him, like, you your mom, your dad, blah, 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 blah. Because whatever he could say, he kept on doing, and Imam Hassan, he stopped his slave and just stood there. And when the person says, when I get tired, Imam, he asked something to his slave. The slave went back to his home and came back with a bag full of coins, the gold coins. Imam Hassan, he asked to that person, he said to that person, said, I assume you are from Damascus. He said, yes, I am. Said, it's not your fault. A person gets influenced by the environment he grows up in. He gave him that bag full of gold coin. He said, right now this is the only thing that I have at my home. Take it, use it. If you ever need something, my house is open for you. Don't feel a stranger. Come and ask. I'll do whatever I can. And the person, he said, I was so ashamed of myself at that point. That what did I do to the person? And it was this behavior that Imam Hassan Radhiyallahu Ta'ala, even he had abdicated the throne. He could not, he just walked away from everything that was related to the politics. Still he was poisoned because the people at the throne, they still took him as a threat to the throne. Because they just could not conceive that somebody would be that much patient. And they went through a lot. And he left the throne, and then he went through all that torture, both those brothers, and then eventually Imam Hassan, he was poisoned. And he got killed by like that. And when the news came to the court was in session, Muawiyah's court was in session, and the news came that Hazrat Hassan, he has passed away, he has embraced Shahada. And then there was this Sahabi of Rasulullah, I am forgetting his name. He said, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. And one of the courtiers of Muawiyah, he said, why are you saying Inna lillah? Is it something of sadness? He was but an ember of coal, glowing ember of coal, and Allah just extinguished it. It is nothing. And the Caliph, Muawiyah, he was in presence. And then Sahabi, he said, Wallah, you had burnt my heart, and I'm not going to leave this place up until I burn. And he addressed the Khalifa, Muawiyah, I burn your heart the way that you have burnt my heart. And he said, did not Rasulullah not say that gold is forbidden on the people of on the men of my ummah, and is permissible to the women of my ummah? He said, yes. He said, did Rasulullah not say, prohibit us from eating in the plates and the utensils that are made of gold? He said, yes. He said, did Rasulullah not forbid us from putting the skin of the wild animals as trophies and as mats in our households? He said, yes. He said, aren't all these three things happen in your household? Don't you do all these three things that Rasulullah forbid you from? And he said, yes. And that's how he exacted his revenge. But that was the scenario. And then the final thing was, and people used to write to Hazrat Imam Hussain Radhiyallahu Ta'ala anhu that, and that's how we humans are. They would write him, oh, these people are doing that, the Umayyads, the reign of Muawiyah. They are changing the religion of Allah. They are destroying the Islam. They are destroying the values. What answer will you give to Allah on the Day of Judgment? You are not standing in front of Him. You are not going against Him. You are not opposing Him. Hazrat Imam Hussain, when Hazrat Imam Hussain has died. So, and they used to write him day and night. And Imam Hussain said, okay, how will you answer to Allah about yourself? So that is how we humans are. So the normal people, Muslims, they would write to Imam Hussain, and they will put it as it is his fault, that he is not standing against it. And he is the son of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He deserves more to stand against it than any other Muslims. And he will say, no, I cannot stand against him because my brother made a pact with him. And there is still one clause left. As long as he does not violate all of the pact, I will not stand against him. I'll not raise sword against him. I'll still stay in the hope of good. And when the Muawiyah, he decided to make Yazid his successor, he came to Medina and he needed support from four people. There were four of the leaders of the Muslim world at that time. Hazrat Imam Hussain Razillah Ta'ala anhu, Hazrat Abdurrahman bin Abi Bakr Razillah Ta'ala anhu, Hazrat Abdullah ibn Umar Razillah Ta'ala anhu, Hazrat Abdullah ibn Zubair Razillah Ta'ala anhu. These were the four of the greatest of the Muslims at that time. No. Ibn Abbas was never a leader. He was never a leader. He was never considered or consulted for anything. The four people who the Muslim world used to listen to, Hazrat Abdullah ibn Umar, because Abdullah ibn Abbas, he became a Sahabi after or on the day of conquest of Mecca. He became, but Abdullah ibn Umar, he was present when Abdullah ibn Zubair was born. Abdullah ibn Zubair was raised in presence of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Hazrat Imam Hussain was raised at the time of by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So, and Abdurrahman ibn Abi Bakr Razillah Ta'ala anhu, definitely he was the son of Abu Bakr, and he was actually young grown man even at the time of Badr. So those were the four who the Muslim world used to listen. Hazrat Abdullah ibn Abbas Razillah Ta'ala anhu, even when the incident of Hara happened, he hid behind the pulpit of Masjid Nabawi to save his life. Abdullah ibn Abbas Razillah Ta'ala anhu was not kept at the same stature as the other four, just because XYZ reasons. He was not a man of sword, Abdullah ibn Abbas, he was more of a scholar, but these people, they had a different brought up or status. And it's not uncommon, like not all the Sahabis were equal. Things keep on changing. But coming back to the point, so Muawiyah, he came and he asked those four in there, and he started the conversation. He was a very good statesman. He said, okay, Yazid, let him be the caliph, and he will do whatever you guys want him to do. He is your son, he is from your tribe, he is your blood, whatever arguments he had. Hazrat Abdurrahman ibn Abu Bakr, actually, that is what is narrated, that the person who was most severe in the opposition was Hazrat Abdurrahman bin Abi Bakr, and the person who was most like softest amongst them was Hazrat Abdullah ibn Umar. So it got switched. The person whose dad was the softest, he was the most aggressive, and the person whose dad was the hardest or the toughest, he was the most polite in that conversation. But Hazrat Abdurrahman ibn Abi Bakr, he said, what the hell are you talking about? You are trying to implement the ways of Caesar, of the Christians, of the monarchy in the Muslims, that after you it will be your son, and after it will be his son. You are going to turn the Muslim Khilafah a monarchy. And all four of them, they rejected that proposal. And then there is a whole line what happened. Eventually Muawiyah went back, he passed away, he had the armies, Yazid became the Khalifa. Now the final clause was broken. So Hazrat Imam Hussain Razillah Ta'ala anhu, he was not bound of any pact. And then the people of Kufa, and not ordinary people, they were Sahaba in Kufa, they started writing to Hazrat Imam Hussain. They said, okay, one tyrant has died and now he has left us to another tyrant. And you, now what excuse will you give to Allah on the day of judgment for not doing anything? So now Hazrat Imam Hussain Razillah Ta'ala, he had no ground left to avoid it. And they said, we are ready to die for the cause of Allah. Are you ready to lead us? Now it was his conscious decision. He knew that the task is unattainable, that people may turn around, but he had the choice. Either he keeps a blind eye. Now at the time of his death, Muawiyah, he gave Yazid the final advice, and he said, and he was a smart man. It was no coincidence that he ruled for 30 years. He was a very smart man. He said, "Oh my son, do not color your hands with the blood of Hussein. Hussein will not fight you, but I am afraid that people of Kufa will make him stand against you. If that happens, don't kill him. Don't come to the day of judgment with your hands colored with the blood of son of Rasulullah." He said, "The person who will fight you, if he gets a chance, is Abdullah ibn Zubair. And if he does it, use all your force to defeat him, because he is the one who will attack you whenever he can get a chance. He will not let go of the thing." And it exactly happened as Muawiyah foretold. Not because he was kind of a wali or something, because he was so smart. And that is exactly what happened. And he said to Yazid, one of the things, said, "In people of Kufa, if they will ask you to change their governor every day, change it every day. Because they are the most relentless of all the people that you have in your dominion. If they ask you to change their governor every day, change it every day. Just keep them happy. Don't let them revolt against you." But anyway, when that happened, then Hazrat Sulaiman bin Sa'd radhiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he was one of the Sahabi of Rasulullah. He was residing in Kufa. People gathered in his home, and he is the one who wrote the letter to Hazrat Imam Hussain. He said, "Okay, one tyrant is dead, and he has left us to another tyrant. What excuse do you have now to not do anything? You had been telling us that there is one clause left in the peace pact that your brother made. Now, all of that peace pact is null and void. Every clause has been violated. What is your excuse now?" And then Hazrat Imam Hussain had to make a choice. He could have stayed in Medina. Medina is not even near to Kufa. He would still be the son of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He could have actually, they were given good amount of pension by the Khalifa every year. So they were not living hand to mouth. They had a lot, they used to give them a lot of money. It is another thing that they used to spend it, like, as I said, the people who will curse them, they will still give even that person, they'll give tons of money. They will not keep it. But they were not poor. They had lands, they had money. But the choice was not for himself alone, and he had to make that decision. It was a very painful decision. And he knew the consequences. At that time, the Muslim empire, the Umayyads empire, it was the strongest empire on the world. It was like a person standing up against the United States of America in 1999. You cannot win that war, you know that. But he was afraid. He really thought that, okay, what answer am I going to give to Allah on the day of judgment? Okay, I am seeing something bad has happened. What do I do now? Do I sit, do nothing, save myself? What? And he was afraid of being answerable to Allah. So he took his people, he came to Makkah, and that's where Hazrat Abdullah ibn Abbas, he told him, he said, "Okay, if you have to go." He said, "First, I am scared that the people of Kufa, they will turn their back towards you and you will get killed like Usman got killed. If you don't want to listen to me, if you want to go, then leave your women folk and your children behind, because I'm afraid you are going to kill in front of their eyes." Imam Hussain, he said, "A son of my uncle, I know you are saying it out of concern and your intentions are good, but I have decided." What had he decided? He knew he is going to die. He knew everything is going to happen. But he wanted to make a point that Islam is what Rasulullah has said. That nobody can change Islam and nobody can just submit to it and accept it, and it'll never be permissible no matter how prevalent it is. So he stood up to it with his death, with his blood and that of his family. He wrote it that Islam can never be changed no matter how much the Muslims changed. That is why to this date, no matter what wrong be done, No matter how many Maulvis give the fatwa or everything, the whole Muslim Ummah will never unite against the wrong. Imam Hussain, he drew that line with his blood, that doing the right thing does not matter. It does not have to be the most popular thing at the time. He drew the line between right and wrong. If he would have sit there that time, it would have become a habit. No matter what the king does, no matter what the rulers do, it's all good as long as the ruler is doing it. Islam would have become Christianity. Islam would have become Judaism. Islam would have become a religion where the monarchs would do whatever they want to do. Imam Hussain, he stood there on that date. He got all of his family killed except for one, all the male members that were with him except one. He got all of them killed. But he wrote that, okay, for the right, if that is the price to pay, do not move behind. Because I am the son of Rasulullah. There is nobody closer to him than me. I was given the blessing that I will lead the youth of Jannah. I was given the basharat or the tiding of Jannah when I was born, and yet I am standing here and I am getting myself killed. I am getting my infant son killed. I am getting my grown-ups killed. I am getting my nephews killed, just to prove the point that no matter how strong the other party is, it cannot change the rules of right and wrong. It cannot change the law of Allah. And you live by it and you die by it. And yes, at that point, Yazid won. At that point, Yazid won. His armies won. And remember, it was not only Hussein, Razila Ta'ala anhu, who had to go through this. Who was leading the army of Yazid at that time? Amr ibn Sa'd, son of Hazrat Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas Razila Ta'ala anhu. Son of a Sahabi, and not an ordinary Sahabi, a Sahabi who is amongst Ashratul Mubashshara. Sahabi who is amongst Ashratul Mubashshara. The 10 chosen ones whom Rasulullah gave glad tidings of Jannah in his life. The Sahabi who is the only one upon which Rasulullah had summed his mother and father. Oh, may my mother and father be sacrificed on you. Hazrat Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas on the day of Uhud. Rasulullah would give him his arrow and tell him, may my mother and father be sacrificed for you. He's the only one in the whole world that Rasulullah said this. His son. He came to kill Hussein. For what? And he said, I know I am trading for the hellfire by killing Hussein. He was given the promise of the governorship of Isfahan. Province of Isfahan. Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad, he said, oh, Amr ibn Sa'd, you will lead that army. And he said, why do you want me to do this? I cannot do this. He said, okay, if you can't do it, then forget about being governor of Isfahan. And he said, I know I'm training it for the hellfire, but what can I do? The governorship of Isfahan is the light of my eyes. I'm trading for hellfire, but what can I do? I cannot resist it. I like it that much. So it's not Imam Hussain alone who had to go through it. He was an equally, his brought up was of a similar stature in a way. He was not an ordinary person. He was not son of an ordinary person. He was not somebody who did not know Islam. But he made the conscious choice of fighting for the wrong, because being the governor of Isfahan was his top priority. Hussein, on the other side, his top priority was to be successful in the eyes of Allah. Hazrat Abdullah ibn Abbas, he slept on that day after Zuhr, and he saw Rasulullah and his head and his clothes were full of dirt and his hands were full of blood. And he got scared, worried, and he said, Ya Rasulullah, why are you in such a condition? And Rasulullah, he said, I have been picking up the dead bodies of Hussein and his companions since morning. And Abdullah ibn Abbas, he woke up. He noted down the date and time. And when the news came and the people came and he matched, it was that day and that time. When he saw Rasulullah in the dream. So, but Rasul has a, and it is not an unknown thing. It was not. Rasulullah she narrates Rasulullah he came and he was sad. I asked Rasul, Ya Rasulullah, what happened? And he said, an angel came to me that has never come to us before, or never come to me before, and he has told me that this son of mine is going to get killed, be martyred. And he asked me if I wish he can show me the land where it will happen, and he has shown me the dirt of that land where it will happen. So Hussein knew it is written for him, and he embraced it. He not only embraced himself, like imagine getting your grown-up son killed in front of you, your infant son getting killed in your own arms. For what? For just, if you ask people, many people will say he was just stubborn. It was not being stubborn, it was living the principles. If you believe in something, yes, your belief should be hard enough to lay your life for it. Otherwise, you are just a hypocrite. You are just a coward. So Imam Hussein, Radhiyallahu Ta'ala anhu, forever, he wrote it that, okay, no matter, power does not decide the right and wrong. The right and wrong stays with what Rasulullah Sallallahu has said, what Allah has said. Nobody can change it. And when the time comes, answer your conscience in a way that you can be assured that you will be successful on the day of judgment, that Allah will be happy with you on that day of judgment. Inna Allah yuhibbul ladhina yuqatiluna fi sabilihi saffan ka'annahum bunyanun marsus. They fought in the way of Allah like they were a wall of molten lead. They did not come back. They died of thirst. They embraced Shahada when they were thirsty for 3 years, 3 days. But they did not back down. And not only Hussein. Look at Bibi Zainab Radhiyallahu Ta'ala anha. Look at that lady whose 2 sons are there. Their dead bodies are there. Her brothers, 2 brothers, their dead bodies are there. Her nephews, their dead bodies are there. She is put into chains. And she is walked to Damascus, to Damashq from Karbala. And she goes there and she stands in front of Yazid and she spoke. And she spoke the truth. And she said, okay, you think you have destroyed him? You cannot destroy him. Whatever you did is wrong. No matter what you can say, it cannot change the fact. Hazrat Ali ibn Hussain, Imam Zainul Abidin, he stood at the pulpit in the masjid of Damashq when he was charged. Yazid, he sat at the top of the pulpit, and Hazrat Imam Zainul Abidin, he was brought down there in the chain. He said, have you seen something like that? Have you seen the result of opposing me? Allah made me successful and He made your father defeated person. He cursed him, or I'm not coming up with the right word. He destroyed him. And he said, no, Allah made him successful. Allah accepted his sacrifice. What you have is temporary. It will go away. And yes, 1400 plus years later today, who is successful? With all that might, with all that power, with all that money, to this day, Yazid is being cursed. So much so that people have stopped naming their kids Yazid. You don't hear that name anywhere anymore. Yeah, somebody may just do it just to tease the Shias, but other than that, Yazid name is pretty much forgotten, abandoned. Nobody names their children Yazid. He was successful for those few months and years. And what happened? Everybody who was engaged in the killing of Hussein, he was executed and killed and died a terrible death. Yazid, when he died, his son, they told him to be the next Khalifa. He said, no, I cannot sit on the throne that is sitting on the blood of the children of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I spit on it. He left the throne. He said, I don't want it. I have nothing. Go find somebody else. I don't want to sit on this thing that has its feet in the blood of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's family. Success is not who won the battle. At the end of the day, Hussein lives and Yazid is dead. You won't find his grave. That is, but Hussein is remembered everywhere, every year. Even today, the kings and the monarchs and the rulers, they want people to not remember Hussein, because what Hussein symbolizes is not that any king wants. They do not want people to stand against them if they do wrong. They want their people to be submissive to them. They want their people to do whatever they are told to do. But Hussein, what he did, they cannot stop it. And that is the fear of every tyrant, that somebody like Hussein will stand up against me. Yeah, they may get killed, they may not get what it is, but it is the spirit that goes on. The spirit does not die, and it will never die. This is what everybody who is against Islam or Muslim, they are afraid of. When Hussein did this, they know that when these Muslims, when they come out for their belief, it does not matter what weapons they carry. It does not matter how many they are. It does not matter how cruelly we destroy them. They will just keep on coming. They will just keep on doing it. And to the point that we are the ones who have to fail. Unfortunately, these people who think Muslims are their enemies, they are not afraid of our quantity, the numbers, they are not. But they know they can buy tons of us, but they know they cannot buy every one of us. And there will always be a group who will raise that flag and who will come and keep on fighting till death. And if they will wipe out one group, there will be another one that will stand up, and there will be another one that will stand up. And that is what the fear is. Even during the end of the times, the Muslims there will be a battle between Islam and others. Many Muslims, they will flee, but there will be many who will stand and fight. And they will not have the technological advantage or anything, but they will just keep on fighting. That's what it is. That is what Hussein symbolized. The spirit of Islam. The spirit of Islam in the way that you do not give up. No matter how bad the odds are. And even if you get destroyed in the process, you vanquish in the process. You are completely overrun. You are blown into pieces. Still, it does not matter. It's worth it. Momin hai to betayag bhi ladta hai sipahi. That is the spirit that Hussein symbolized. Had Hussein sat in his home that day, had he not come up, that spirit would have been dead. Nobody would have dared to stand up against it. But now Hussein gave everybody the hope that, okay, the success does not matter who won or walked out of the battlefield that day. The success depends who Allah elevated and who Allah accepted. Like that day, when the people of Yazid, when the battle was done, they buried their dead, said their janazah, changed the household of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, took them to Dimishq, started to Dimishq, and they did not even bury Hussein and his followers. They left their dead bodies out in the open. The next day in the evening, tribe of Banu Bakr, they came there and they saw their dead bodies there and they buried them. And then when people started flocking there, the Umayyad, the Yazid, he felt threatened that, oh, this will become a place from where another mutiny can start. Then they broke the river to flood that whole area. So the whole earth will become flat and people would not know where their dead bodies are, where their graves are. And then it is said then there was this Badu, he was blind of his eyes. He came to that place and he said, take me to that general area. And he smelled that area and he sat in one place and said, this is where Hussein is. I can feel the smell of Rasulullah at this place. And that's how now these tombs and graves are there. But they did everything. But were they able to destroy Hussein? 80 years of cursing Ali Razillah Ta'ala anhu from the pulpits of the masajid, were they able to? No. And this sacrifice cemented, and with all that power and all that might, the Khilafat-e-Rashida got stopped at Hazrat Imam Hassan Razillah Ta'ala. Nobody had the courage ever to write the reign of Muawiyah or his son or anybody as a Khilafat-e-Rashida. He said Khilafat-e-Rashida ended when Hassan abdicated the throne. After that, it was kingdom. It was Mulukiyat. Just like Rasulullah foretold. It was Mulukiyat. It was the kingship. It was not Khilafat-e-Rashida. People say whatever they say, but nobody had the courage to write it as a Khilafat-e-Rashida because it was not. Sacrifice of Hussein. Otherwise, Islam would have become Judaism. Islam would have become Christianity. The might of the rulers would have decided what is right and what is wrong. In Pakistan, you remember at the time of Ayub, there was a time when they had the namaz in Urdu. Like say namaz in the language you understand, not in Arabic, because what's the point of saying namaz in Arabic? Because you don't understand Arabic. And he said like, okay, why do you have to do qurbani? Everybody just gather money and we'll give the money to the poor. You don't have to do qurbani. It does not make sense. Not everybody needs meat, but people need money. But were they successful? No. Akbar, the mightiest of the Mughal emperors, he invented Deen-e-Ilahi. Was he able to succeed? No. People come, they tried, but no. Hussein, it was his sacrifice that always kept on giving Muslims the hope that, okay, if it is dark today, don't give up. Keep fighting, and one day it will be yours. And that is the message that we need to not only learn, but actually tell our children. It's very important. These children growing up in this society, they only see material and matter. There is no such concept that is taught in schools, in their syllabus, that, okay, sacrifice, laying down your life for the love of Allah, for the right. They don't learn that. To them, oh, the country, lay down your life for your country. What is country? It is here today, it is not there tomorrow. So we need to teach our children this very basic principle of Islam, that for the sake of Allah, even if it means that you have to lay down everything, don't worry about it. Don't hesitate. Put everything in the line, it is still worth it. Oh, inshallah, we will start remembering Allah and we will call upon Him and ask Him that He makes us among the people who follow the path of Hussein and not amongst those who follow the path of Yazid and his companions, because this life is but temporary and everything is going to end. But whoever Allah chooses and whoever associates his or her success in life with the pleasure and pleasing Allah, only those people are successful. Inshallah, I will start. Say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Kalma Tawheed, La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. Kalma Tamjeed, Subhanallah walhamdulillah wa la ilaha illallah wallahu akbar wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billahi al-aliyyil azim. Darud Sharif Ibrahimi, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammadin kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Allahumma barik ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammadin kama barakta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. سيد الاستغفار استغفر الله العظيم الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم وأتوب إليه. آية كريمة لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إني كنت من الظالمين. سورة فاتحة. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Surah Ikhlas. Qul huwallahu ahad. Allahu samad. Lam yalid wa lam yulad. Wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. Ayatul Kursi. Allahu la ilaha illa huwal hayyul qayyum. La ta'khudhuhu sinatun wa la nawm. Lahu ma fis samawati wa ma fil ard. ذا الذي يشفع عنده إلا بإذنه يعلم ما بين أيديهم وما خلفهم ولا يحيطون بشيء من علمه إلا بما شاء وسع كرسيه السماوات والأرض ولا يؤوده حفظهما وهو العلي العظيم. الله الحسيب. لطيف. يا مجيب السميع. يا وهاب. يا باري. يا قابض. يا علي العظيم. يا حي يا قيوم. يا ذو الجلال والإكرام. Ya Hannanu Ya Mannanu. Ya Ghafuru Ya Rahim. Ya Jawadu Ya Kareem. Ya Lamul Ghuyub. Ya Wadudu Ya Lufu. Ya Baqiyu. Ya Basitu. Ya Kabir Al Muta'al. Salamun Qawlan min Rabbir Rahim. Salam. Ya Badi Al Ajaib Bil Khair. Ya Arhamar Rahimin. Ya Allah Ya Rahman. Ya Allah. Salatul Khawf. Those of you who do not know this Durood Sharif, they recite whichever Durood Sharif they know. This Durood Sharif is Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi salatan takunu lana amanam min kulli khawf. Now recite Surah Fatiha one time and make dua.
Allah. Inshallah, next time we will meet in